timetables and timekeeping, it then moves into a what on the surface looks like a critique of bad normative Muslim practice, i.e. not paying on time. But what it really is it's a critique of a lack of modernity. It says that if you're not on time, then you can't be on time for work, you're late, you're not efficient, you don't produce. And the whole thrust of his writing is incredibly modern. He wrote another short essay about essays. And he writes about, I always use this essay for my students because he says, the problem with Malays is whenever you write, your focus is more on structure rather than content. And he says, if you look at, so he looks at the writing of Malay letters, Malays writing letters to the colonial authorities, because he's the translator, he has to translate all of this. And he says, every time I have to translate 5, 6, 7 pages of introduction, when you finally get to the point, it's just 2 sentences at the end. So he said, why not just get straight to the point and write half a paragraph rather than 10 pages of rubbish, And so this is really, he's someone who was very much concerned about the economy of action, the economy of movement, the economy of time. Don't waste time, don't waste energy. Get to the point. And in many respects, this was actually a very modern critique of normative Islam. You waste too much time with ritual. Even when it comes to prayers, it says, so much show in the mosque, whereas, your contact with God is direct. It's very Protestant in a sense. Your contact with God is direct. Get to the point, ask what you want, and then leave. don't. So it's actually very modern. And today, no one can write like that in music. If you were to write like that today, that's it. You have the Malaysian equivalent of RTE coming to beat you up. No one. And when you read Syed Sheikh Al-Hadi, do get this text. It's actually very, very, very important. The True Cry comes from a title of one of his articles in his magazine. The True Cry, Teriak Sebenar. It's actually a reference to a passage in that article. Teriak Sebenar is when he actually mentions in the article, Teriak is to scream, yeah? Who's that screaming in the mosque? So he talks about walking past a mosque and hearing the imam scream. And he talks about, again, economy of discourse. You don't have to shout.
Didn't you say that was the True Cry was by
Sheikh Al-Hadi?
Sheikh Al-Hadi.
Yeah, yes, that's it. I'm just drawing the continuity here.
Okay.
So, and again, when he writes that, it's about economy of discourse. You don't need to use flowery language. And he preached a rational Islam. So throughout much of his career, he was a sort of tariqat buster. He spent a lot of his time going around Penang exposing fake tariqats. There was one tariqat called Tariqat Matahari, and he actually spent his time preaching a very rationalist Islam. I said, you can't worship the sun for heaven's sake, and he a lot of his activities were like that. And his articles are short, succinct, but they're straight to the point. Why do we need a printing press? Because we don't have a printing press, we cannot disseminate ideas. We need to disseminate ideas because we need to counter other ideas. So it's that sort of writing. And when he writes, he was also a prose writer, and he wrote the Hikayat Faridah Hanum, which on record is the first feminist novel in the history of modern Malay literature. Faridah Hanum is the story of a young woman who refuses to marry a man who her family has engaged her to, and instead chooses to marry the man of her choice. So for the first time in history, you have a woman who is in charge of her own body. A woman who actually determines the fate of her own body. And this is written by a sheikh, for heaven's sake. And when this book came out, Hikayat Faridah Hanum, again in the Malay states, they burned this book in public. They burned the book in public on the grounds that it was pornographic, because there are scenes in Faridah Hanum where Faridah Hanum meets the man she loves in private, khalwat, without muhrim. And so they regarded this as being tantamount to promoting illicit behavior, and they banned the book on the grounds of pornography. The book was banned. Till today, it's almost impossible to find this book. I found a copy by chance in a second-hand bookstore in Kuala Lumpur. So that's the legacy. If we're going to have a count of that generation.
What was the name of the book?
Hikayat Faridah Hanum. Hikayat. The story of